On another planet, far from Earth, baby Megamind is being placed in a capsule by his parents as his home comes crashing down. His mom hands him an alien fish in a small bowl, saying it is his minion and it will take care of him. The capsule is then launched, and after a while, he meets another alien baby in a capsule who seems to be smarter than he is. The capsules both head to Earth while the other planets get sucked into a black hole on reaching the Earth. Baby Megamind's capsule is headed for a rich home when the other capsule collides with his baby Mega, ends up landing in jail and being raised by the prisoners, while the other baby lives a life of luxury, adopting the name Metro Man for his uniqueness and his adder operation. By everyone, after a few years, with some time off for good behavior, Megamind eventually goes to the same school as Metro Man, who bullies him while receiving praise from his classmates. Mega is impressed at how much Metro is loved by all. He tries to use his intelligence to impress the students also, but always ends up getting punished in the quiet corner. While he spends most of his time alone, he discovers a way to dehydrate animate objects and rehydrate them as well through the course of time. Mega is treated badly and is always the odd one out feeling left out. He has an epiphany and claims his purpose as a villain. He then gets himself expelled by using a blue paint bomb, thus setting off a rivalry between him and Metro in the present. Mega, aided by his fish-like companion, Minion, frequently and unsuccessfully battles Metro Man for control of the city. Sometime later, at the grand opening of the new Metro Man Museum, reporter Roxanne Ritchie is kidnapped by Minion with Megamind Invisible Mobile and is taken to Megamind's hideout. Meanwhile, Megamind devises his usual cunning plans and is able to escape prison using a wristwatch that uses holographic manipulations to turn himself into the police chief at Megamind's hideout. Roxanne mocks him for always being predictable, as all he does is kidnap her and get Metro to come save her. And the cycle keeps repeating itself at the museum opening. Mega places a call to Metro where Roxanne tells Metro Man their location, an abandoned observatory. Unfortunately, Mega was not correctly predicted this time, as it was only a trap to lure Metro Man into the real observatory, where Mega foils his plans of obliterating Metro Man with his sun-powered weapon once and for all. Suddenly, Metro Man collapses, saying the copper-lined observatory roof awakens his powers. Megamind, confused, then blasts Metro Man with the sun-powered weapon after the explosion. Everyone is curious as to whether Metro had survived it, and just then a skeleton with his cape flies into the hideout. This comes as a shock to everyone who never expected that one day Mega would actually take down the almighty Metro. And with no one around to stop him, Mega goes on a crime spree, taking over the city. However, he eventually becomes depressed and purposeless with no hero to fight while watching the news report. One night, Roxanne expresses her disappointment in Mega, asking him if he's happy now, and leaving to his thoughts. Meanwhile, after wrapping up the report of the day, Roxanne's partner in camera, Boy Hal Store, tries to ask her out, but Roxanne's not interested and saves herself by lying about having the villain, goes to the Metro Man Museum and begins to apologize to his statue, saying that he always wanted to eliminate him, but never thought he could. Finally, he throws the bouquet of flowers he brought up together with the activator for a bomb, saying that he will destroy the museum because this place brings back painful memories. But as he is leaving, the villain is met by Roxanne. While on the run, he bumps into one of the museum employees and decides to use the watch to assume his form, as well as dehydrating him with the laser gun with less than 2 minutes to go until the explosion. The villain goes to the elevator and starts to ride down together with Roxanne, who, thinking he is the employee. Bernard tries to make small talk, while Megamind in disguise laments the loss of the Metro Man before they say goodbye. Roxanne tells Bernard to rest, assured that good will always come up against evil, and that heroes can be created, which gives the villain a great idea inspired by what she said. Megamind watches the museum explosion up close and returns to his hideout, planning to create a new hero using the rest of the Metro Man's DNA left on the cover. When he arrives at the place, he tells about his plans to the Dominion, who warns his boss that this was a bad idea. But the villain says that this is what villains do, bad things after preparing everything. Megamind puts the DNA sample into an injector gun and starts thinking about how to find someone with a noble heart to be his new rival. But suddenly a cell phone starts ringing. He realizes that it is Bernard's, When he answers, the villain hears Roxanne on the other end of the line, thanking him for the conversation the other day and suggesting that they get together to face Mega because now she knows where his hideout is. The minion shows the villain that Roxanne is at the entrance to the hideout, and he panics wondering how she found the place. But since he forgot to dismantle the fake observatory, it was quite easy. Roxanne sees the rug of the secret entrance that the minion has left and decides to enter to investigate the hiding place with his secrets about to be discovered. Mega decides to transform into Bernard and goes to meet with Roxanne to try to convince her to leave, but the reporter decides to continue investigating and finds all the projects that the villain is developing to prevent his plans from being ruined. Mega asks the minion to send the brainbots to take Roxanne away, but instead they get the minion himself, who is disguised as Bernard, forcing the villain to return to his original form as soon as the robots release the blue alien. Roxanne finds Megamind and starts threatening him with the injector gun while asking where Bernard is, knowing that he cannot lose Metro Man's DNA. The villain says he will bring him back and jumps into the basement where he forges a fight against the man. As soon as the performance is over, Megamind tries to take the launcher out of Roxanne's hands, but the reporter insists on keeping the weapon, forcing the villain to hide so he can return to his original form and try to take it by force. As they fight, the object ends up shooting and hitting Hal, Roxanne's cameraman who had accompanied her there. After this, the journalist hides from the villain and decides to get out of there, but ends up in a crocodile trap, having to be saved by Megamind, disguised as Bernard. Now the brainbots are chasing them again, and Roxanne forces the villain to throw dynamite at his own creations so that they can escape, but they also almost get hit by the explosion outside. Roxanne begins to praise Bernard's courage in facing Mega, but the moment is ruined by Hal, who gets jealous when she gives the villain a farewell hug, since Hal still doesn't know what happened. Mega asks the minion to get the car so they can follow them and get Metro Man's powers back. But seeing what a complete failure the cameraman is, the villain gets carried away, believing it was fate, and decides to leave him with the powers. With this in mind, they break into the apartment and wait until the transformation happens, after Hal completely changes his appearance. Megamind disguises himself as an old man and pretends to be his father in order to train him until he becomes a real hero. But Hal is a complete failure at everything they try. Tired, Megamind becomes convinced that the boy is useless and thinks about removing his powers. But the minion starts to think of a new training method while the villain is busy texting Roxanne and going on dates with her during the outings that take place more and more frequently. They begin to get very close, and Megamind starts to put an end to everything that bothers Roxanne, such as the garbage strewn about town, and even returning stolen items at the same time. Minion's new tactics really work, and Hal begins to progress, reaching the end of his training and receiving both his uniform and his superhero name, Titan, with 1 day to go, until the first big confrontation between Mega and the new superhero minion begins to make some adjustments to his battle suit. But instead of focusing on the confrontation, the supervillain is more concerned with hanging out with Roxanne, knowing that he is in love and afraid that his friend will get hurt when Roxanne discovers his true identity. Minion refuses to let him leave and takes the car key. Disgusted with this attitude, the supervillain starts a big argument where he admits that maybe he doesn't want to be evil anymore, since the villain never gets the girl in the middle of the fight. Mega ends up saying that he no longer needs the minion, and so he leaves across town Roxanne's place. She finally figures out from a pile of clues that Mega is training a new superhero to challenge him, while she wonders who this Titan character may be. Hal shows up to court her. He almost gives her a heart attack while putting her in danger and saving her life. But Hal had totally misunderstood the whole hero thing. After yelling at him to drop her, he drops her off the top of a lighthouse and reveals himself to Roxanne. Unfortunately, he ends up heartbroken when Roxanne turns him down after she joins Bernard for their date that evening. Hal follows her and witnesses the date when the heartbroken Hal leaves Megamind's Bernard disguise fails. And just as Minion had predicted, Roxanne runs away from him, a heartbroken Megamind, then arranges to fight Titan the next day. But when the day of the fight arrives, Titan does not show up. After waiting for hours, Megamind shows up at Hal's apartment when he learns that Hal is using his powers on a crime spree. Hal even offers to ally with Megamind, But Megamind deliberately reveals his disguises as Space Dad and Bernard, who stole his girl, and all his deceptions towards Hal, hoping to trick him into fighting him. Angered and provoked, Hal savagely beats Megamind in a fight. When the fight ends, Megamind is thrilled to have so much fun. After so long, he tells Hal to send him to jail, but instead, Hal has the intention of ending his life with the use of an emergency red button minion installed in Megamind's suit. He quickly flees after finally realizing that Hal has no interest in justice and means to end him. Megamind traps him in a ball of copper. However, he's surprised when Hal easily breaks out. Meanwhile, the people of Metro City start to cheer Hal in the hope that they now have a new hero. But Hal breaks it to them that the city is now under new management. On the other hand, Megamind flees to Roxanne's apartment, pleading for her to let him in. He manages to convince Roxanne to help him out with finding Metro Man's weaknesses or even possibly his hideout. He and Roxanne then escape to Metro Man's old hideouts. The hideout turns out to be their former kindergarten class, but with much more internal renovations. Roxanne notices a glass cup on the table with fresh cubes of ice, indicating that someone is there. While they're trying to decipher, they hear a noise from behind. On turning around, they discover Metro Man is still alive, having faked his death by using his super speed. When he was at the observatory, he'd thought about how he wanted to live his life, to make his own choice, instead of becoming what the city wanted, and he came to the conclusion that it was finally time to resign and pursue his dream as a musician. Meanwhile, Minion finds out from news reports about the rampage being caused by Titan back in Metro Man's hideout. Roxanne and Megamind are still in awe that Metro Man has been alive all this time. Roxanne tries to convince him that Metro City needs him, but he refuses to help. Instead, he asserts that a hero will always rise to defeat evil outside the lair. Roxanne summons up the courage and suggests they team up and take Titan down, but Megamind feels dejected and purposeless. He explains to her that he can never be good, he can't save lives, and he can never get the girl. He walks away and willingly returns to prison while Hal goes on a rampage while in his cell. Megamind finds out from the news that citizens have begun to flee the city while the rest are advised to stay indoors to make things worse. Titan kidnaps Roxanne and does a public broadcast demanding to fight Megamind and threatening to kill Roxanne with minions, help Megamind escapes prison, and uses holographic disguises to make Minion appear as him. Minion successfully rescues Roxanne, but gets hurt in the process, while Megamind makes himself appear as Metro Man to frighten Titan away for good. However, Megamind's speech patterns give him away, causing Titan to attack Megamind and throw him into the stratosphere. We're then taken back to the beginning scene of the movie. This time, before falling to his doom, Megamind dehydrates himself into a cube and lands safely in a fountain. He then rehydrates next to Titan and manages to extract the DNA, reverting Titan back to his human form. Minion, on the other hand, is fine, as all he needed was water. After everything, Hal is arrested. Megamind and Roxanne rekindle their relationship, and the city celebrates Megamind as a hero. The museum is then converted into one celebrating Megamind, and a disguised Metro Man cheers for him at the grand opening ceremony. The end. The film ends with this. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.